Tonight, we have fresh details of how some 2.7 billion shillings was lost at the Kenya Ports Authority. NTV has exclusive details of the companies contracted to undertake the projects in Mombasa that are now at the center of joint investigation by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. NTV's Seth Olale reports on how graft was allegedly brewed at the port and the attempts by KPA Managing Director Daniel Manduku to wriggle out of trouble.
NTV has obtained exclusive pictures of the concrete barriers as well as names of companies contracted to undertake the projects at the center of a multi-billion shillings graft probe at the Kenya Ports Authority. This year, detectives investigating the scam inspected the concrete barriers constructed by three firms, namely EACC Limited, Salawa Kenya Limited, and Outback Investment in Mombasa. EACC Limited was contracted to construct 1,380 barriers for the Makongeni goods shed. Investigators found that 300 barriers are complete and painted, 81 complete but not painted, and 19 not complete. This means that 980 barriers are yet to be constructed. Salawa Kenya Limited was also contracted to construct 1,380 barriers for the Inland Container Depot ICD. Investigators have established that only 136 barriers are complete and painted, with 835 complete and not painted. 75 are not complete, meaning that 334 barriers are totally missing. Another company, Outback Investment, was mandated to construct 4,140 concrete barriers for the Inland Container Depot ICD. In contrast, only 600 are complete but not painted, with a minimal 10 not complete, resulting into a deficit of 3,530 barriers. The KPA management had sought the approval of National Treasury to shift 2.5 billion shillings of the 3 billion previously set aside for buying a piece of land at the Inland Container Depot in Nairobi for the 500 million Makongeni goods shed and a further 2 billion shillings for dredging the port. It has now emerged that the National Treasury did not approve the 2.7 billion shillings controversial procurement for the concrete barriers. A letter signed by Transport and Infrastructure Principal Secretary Julius Muya, dated November 22, 2019, states, and I quote, "The supplementary budget was not given as per letter dated 24th June 2019 to Principal Secretary, State Department of Transport, whereby the CS for Transport was to grant approval for the request." The letter further reads that there was no prior approval for KPA management to procure Makongeni goods shed concrete works before approval of the supplementary budget 2018-2019. In addition, procurement should not take place before budgetary approval. KPA is supposed to comply with this legal requirement. The letter further states that approval budget for Kisumu Port revitalization was 100 million shillings. KPA is required to seek approval if the contract price exceeds 25%. National Treasury did not receive any request for variation of this project. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has written to KPA's Managing Director Daniel Manduku seeking documents and information on senior officials. The documents sought include appointment letters for MD Daniel Manduku, Michael Sangoro, Geoffrey Kavate, Anthony Namancha, and Anthony Muhanji, payslips for Anthony Muhanji for the period he has served at KPA, biodata form for Anthony Muhanji, and his wealth declaration form for the entire period he has served at KPA. Manduku has sought orders from the High Court in Mombasa restraining the DPP, Inspector General of Police, and the Directorate of Criminal Investigations from arresting and charging him. He has been granted free bond by Justice Eric Ogola pending the December 17th ruling on his application. The DCI detectives, while conducting an audit in Mombasa, will then head to Kisumu Port, where they will carry out the same exercise. They're later expected to submit a detailed report to the Director of Criminal Investigations, George Kinoti, who in turn is expected to hand over investigating files to the Director of Public Prosecution, Nuruddin Haji, who is expected to recommend prosecution of the key suspects. Seth Olale, NTV, Nairobi.